Hare Krishna. Did you get this book, the summer seminar on Uddhava Gita? So, Bimal Krishna Das, the co-president of Ujjain Radha Madan Mohan Temple, has written the introduction. So I'll request Bimal Krishna to read it. You can sit down.
Introduction to this retreat. Guru Maharaj felt the need to systematically educate his disciples in the schools across the world. That is how the concept of retreats came about. In these retreats, the atmosphere is created in such a way that devotees can stay in a spiritual atmosphere, away from their household situation for 5 to 7 days, and absorb themselves in an intense and uplifting spiritual experience. The concept of retreat relates to the traditional way of learning in the Vedic culture, and Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON to re-establish the Vedic culture, which has otherwise been lost today. All the modern technological devices, audio, visual media, like television, mobile phones, internet, etc., have created an advanced method of communication that has become the cause of degradation of society today. However, if we can use these methods for propagation of spiritual life, the world will benefit tremendously. This is the teaching of Srila Prabhupada. Following in footsteps of His divine grace, His Holiness Charu Maharaj is developing various innovative methods of fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's mission. He is probably the first sannyasi who got involved in making movies, which is based on the life and teachings of Srila Prabhupada. Another innovative method that Guru Maharaj has adapted is a retreat to systematically educate the devotees in a rather unique environment. Charu Goswami states in his Uddhava text form, Dadati Purahati Guhyam Achyana Vrachiti Bhumte Bhajadai Jaiva Shadritam Pratilakshana. Offering gifts of charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasada, and offering are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. In the retreat atmosphere, the 6 learning exchanges can take place among the devotees. Guru Maharaj has been holding his retreats in different parts of the world, including Europe, USA, Australia, South Africa, and India. In most of these places, an entire hall is turned into an ashram, where the banquet hall becomes the temple, the dining hall becomes the prasad room, and the kitchen is thoroughly cleaned with counter and ganga water to make it sanctified and fit to cook for the Lord. Guru Maharaj has selected various specialized devotional topics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Dhamma Samhita, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. These seminars have proved to immensely benefit the participants spiritually. By participating in these retreats, the devotees not only progress in their spiritual life, but also learn the subject matter in profound detail, which otherwise might not have been possible for them. We, the devotees of Ujjain, are immensely grateful to Guru Maharaj for the good fortune that He has created for us by giving us this opportunity to serve all the devotees who are coming here to participate in this retreat. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So next I'll request Ganganarayan to come, and he wrote the next piece giving the basic understanding of Uddhava Gita.
Uddhava Gita is the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the first 10 cantos, Krishna's identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been very systematically and established. Then Krishna's Bhakti has been revealed, which is otherwise hidden from the individuals who are lacking the necessary faith and deprived of the special mercy of the Lord. Before reviewing his pastimes from the earth planet, Krishna started with about the essence of the most confidential knowledge. This arrangement is actually a display of Krishna's consciousness upon the living entities. Without we complete this knowledge is already one of the most intimate associates of Krishna. However, it is through Uddhava that Krishna is making this knowledge available to us. Through Uddhava, Krishna is making the arrangement to impart this knowledge to us, just as through Arjuna, he gave Bhagavad Gita to this world. Uddhava Gita begins from the 7th chapter of the 11th canto and goes on till the 29th chapter. In these 23 chapters, Krishna instructed Uddhava to different anecdotes, like King Jalu's encounter with Lord Dattatreya, who spoke to him about the 24 different gurus. Then he spoke about the nature of primitive activities, the symptoms of the conditioned and liberated living entities, about pure devotional service beyond renunciation and knowledge. Guru Maharaj will speak for 6 days from 26th to 31st of December, and in his usual sublime way will make his most profound topic crystal clear to everyone. The unique ability of a qualified teacher is to simplify the most difficult subjects and make it understandable even for a layman. This is the qualification of an ideal teacher. For example, I have seen how some devotees used to find the Brahma Samhita very difficult to understand. They used to refer to it only to tell the shlokas for some special events. However, after attending Guru Maharaj's seminar in Brahma Samhita, they found it to be absolutely clear and immensely relation. As Srila Prabhupada has not given purpose to the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, not so many devotees are inspired to read it. Guru Maharaj's seminar will encourage the devotees to study it. This part of Srimad Bhagavatam is so important that Krishna is describing this message to the lives of his own devotees in sections like the Uddhava Gita and Avanti Brahmana. The Avanti Brahmana is connected to Avanti Vijayana, and therefore this seminar is especially dedicated to the devotees of Vijayana. It is our great good fortune that we are getting the opportunity to hear from Guru Maharaj about this topic in the holy land of Ujjain. I thank Guru Maharaj for giving us the opportunity to serve all the wonderful devotees who came from different parts of the world to eternal servant Ganganatha.
Thank you, Ganganarayan. Hare Krishna. So, the Uddhava Gita is the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In first 10 cantos, the 10 aspects of Mahapuran has been described. Those 10 aspects of Mahapuran is Atra Sarga Visargascha Sthana Poshanam Utayo Man Ishanu Katha Nirodha Muktir Ashraya. It begins with creation. Different Puranas describe different aspects of these 10 symptoms of Mahapuran. For example, some of the Purans describe 5 aspects, some 6. But Srimad Bhagavatam describes all the way up to Ashrayaha, which Srila Prabhupada described as Samam Bonam, the ultimate understanding of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This aspect of Krishna is Krishna in Vrindavan, who is the cause of all causes. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam. Sarvakarana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. He is also the cause of the incarnations. Krishna is not an incarnation. Krishna is the Swayam Bhagavan. Ete changsha kalapungsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. At the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, various incarnations of the Lord has been described. There are 6 in categories. Although his incarnations are innumerable, but there are of 6 categories, and 22 incarnations have been described at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it has been mentioned, Ete changsha kalapungsha. All these incarnations are amsas, and kala are amsas, parts, or parts of the part, or part of the part of the part. But Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. This Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. This original Supreme Personality of Godhead is the source of all incarnations. He is not an incarnation himself. Incarnations are his parts and parts of parts, Amsa and Kala. Although Krishna said that Sambhavami Juge Juge, I manifest myself in every Yuga, not only as one incarnation, as many, many incarnations. But Krishna does not appear in every Yuga. That original Supreme Personality of Godhead comes once in a day of Brahma. What is the longevity? What is the length of Brahma's day? Sahasra Yuga Parjantam. 1000 Chatur Yugas or Divya Yugas. Satta, Treta, Dapar and Kali combined together make one Divya Yuga, and 1000 such Divya Yugas make a day of Brahma. And Krishna, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, comes once in a day of Brahma. That also has been described very clearly. In a day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, starting from Swayambhuva Manu. The 7th Manu is Vaivashata Manu. And during the reign of this Vaivashata Manu, whose length of reign is 71 Chaturjugas, 1000 divided by 14 is approximately 71. So out of these 71 Chaturjugas of the day of the reign of Manu, Vaivasata Manu, on the 28th Chaturjuga, in Dwapar Yuga, towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, Krishna, the Swayam Bhagavan, descends. So he doesn't come every Yuga. He comes once in a day of Brahma, specifically described when actually. And this is the Vaivashata Manvantar. The Vivashan is the sun god, and his son is Vaivashata Manu. Imang Vivashate Yogam Pruktavan Aham Abbayam Vivashwan Manavipraho Manu Rikshakuve Avravit Evang Parampara Praptam Imam Rajar Shayuvidu. So, sun god is Vivashan, his son is Vaivashata Manu, his son is Ikshaku, in which dynasty Lord Ramchandra appeared, Manu Rikshaku Abravit. So, this original Supreme Personality of Godhead is not from Vaikuntha. This original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan, is from Braj, Vrindavan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very wonderfully established that point. Aradha Bhagavan Brajeshwatanai. The Supreme Worshipable Lord is the son of Nanda Maharaj, Brajeshwatanai. He is not the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. He is not Vasudeva Krishna. He is Nanda Nandan Krishna. And this Nanda Nandan Krishna, Jiva Goswami emphatically pointed out that Vrindavanam Parittajya Kutra Kadapi na Gacchati. He never leaves Vrindavan. He doesn't even take a step out of Vrindavan. Anyway, that is of course another aspect, but the main point is that this Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the son of Nanda Maharaj, whose abode is Vrindavan. So Ashrayaha is the Samam Bonam, or you can say the shelter of everything, the shelter of even the incarnations, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. Bhagavatam is describing in first 39 chapters, the 10th canto, 39 chapters describes Krishna of Vrindavan. So that is the summum bonum. That is the ultimate understanding, and that is revealed only in Srimad Bhagavatam. There are these descriptions in Harivamsa, in Padma Puran. Krishna's Braja Leela have been described, but Bhagavatam specifically establishes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who resides in Vrindavan and who reveals his Braja Leela once in a day of Brahma. So in this way, in first 10 cantos, it comes all the way up to Krishna's Braja Leela. And then the 11th canto, Krishna is giving the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam through this Uddhava Gita. Krishna told Uddhava that he would be withdrawing his pastimes. He has been requested by Brahma and Lord Shiva and other principal demigods to reveal, to go back to the spiritual sky. The mission has been accomplished. He came to establish Dharma. Now Dharma has been established. The demons had been annihilated. But now he is going to go. At that time, he actually also mentioned that Kali Yuga is about to begin and the sinful activities will prevail. The whole situation of this world will become extremely difficult. People will become extremely sinful. At that time, Uddhava actually wanted to go with Krishna back to the spiritual sky. But Krishna advised him, no, don't do that. You stay, but stay becoming fully detached. So in this way, Krishna is actually teaching us through Uddhava how to deal with this age of Kali. And the secret is detachment. The situation is so sinful that if we get entangled, there won't be any end to our miserable condition. Therefore, remain detached. And in this way, Krishna advised Uddhava step by step into this process. It begins with, Uddhava Gita actually begins with an anecdote describing an encounter of Yadu. Yadu is the forefather of Krishna, King Yadu. Yadu, this line actually comes like Jajati. King Jajati had 5 sons, 3 from Sharmishtha and 2 from Devjani. And the eldest one was Yadu. Yadu, Turvasu, Druhu, Anu and Puru. Bhagavatam describes that all the royal families of this world are actually coming from these 5 families. Krishna appeared in Yadu dynasty. The dynasty that comes from Somdev, the moon god. There are 2 Kshatriya lines. One is from Suryadev, like Ramchandra appeared in Surya Vamsa, and Krishna appeared in Chandra Vamsa. This line is coming from Chandradev, Somdev. And Jadu was a very pious person. And one day, Jadu encountered an abadhuta. Abadhuta is a person who doesn't have any external consciousness. He is completely absorbed in his spiritual meditation. He is completely situated in his spiritual consciousness. Therefore, he doesn't have any external consciousness. Therefore, their activities are quite unpredictable. They apparently appear to be like a madman. Like this morning we are discussing about Sukadeva Goswami. When Sukadeva Goswami arrived on the bank of the Ganges, where Parikshit Maharaj was preparing to leave his body, he appeared to be like a madman. So much so that the young children were teasing him, and the women were laughing at him. But the sages, the exalted personalities who assembled there on the bank of the Ganges on the occasion of Parikshit Maharaj's departure from this planet, they all stood up immediately. They didn't see Sukadeva Goswami before. Just a 16-year-old boy. And they actually wondered, who is this? Who appears to be extremely exalted, but we never seen him before. Maybe this is Sukadev, about whom we heard, but never seen him. Vasudev also was present in that assembly, and Vasudev confirmed, yes, this is Sukadev. And as you know, Sukadeva Goswami narrated the instructions to Parikshit Maharaj, and that constitutes Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are the symptoms of an abadhuta. Sukadeva Goswami. Another abadhuta is Rishabdev. His activities were completely unpredictable. When he left his kingdom, he was the ruler of the entire earth planet. This is another thing. In the early days, is the Indian rulers who used to rule over the entire world. Not only the land part of the world, they used to rule over the ocean as well. Sa Sagara. Along with the ocean, they used to rule. Even the ocean part also was under their sovereign domain. So Rishabdev left his kingdom. As you know, he made his eldest son, Bharat Maharaj, as the successor to the throne, and he left home, and his activities were completely unpredictable. He looked like a madman. But thousands of people are following him because they could understand that he is an extremely exalted personality. Nityananda Prabhu also has been identified as an abadhuta. Nityananda Abadhut. So another name of Avadhuta is Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa means a personality who is not in the material platform anymore. He is situated in the complete spiritual platform. Sattam Vishuddham Bosudeva Sabditam. This Suddha Sattva, material nature also has three modes: ignorance, passion, goodness. Material nature also has goodness, but material goodness is not Suddha Sattva. Material goodness is Mishra Sattva. This mode of goodness is tinged with passion and ignorance. The pure goodness is in the spiritual sky. The spiritual sky is Vishuddha Sattva. And in that Vishuddha Sattva, the Supreme Personality of God resides, and so does his devotees. And their activities are very, very unique. From the material perspective, we cannot actually analyze or figure out their activities. They're completely different, meaning they don't have any attachment to this material nature. So, King Jadu saw this, Hare Krishna, King Jadu saw this Avadhuta. Okay, maybe at the outset I can mention who is this Avadhuta? Srila Sridhar Swami described that this Avadhuta is actually Dattatreya, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sridhar Swami made that point. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also accepted it, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also accepted it. There are reasons how Sridhar Swami is establishing that this personality is actually Dattatreya. As you know, Dattatreya is a very exalted incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are some very wonderful points that Jadu made in this context. Okay, before that, before we go into that, there are certain questions by Uddhava to Krishna. I think it will be relevant to discuss about them now. He's saying that, my dear Lord, you alone award the results of yoga practice, and you are so kind that by your own influence you distribute the perfection of yoga to your devotees. Nowadays, generally people think yoga means physical gymnastic. But the word yoga literally means to be linked with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yoga, any process that links us to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the yoga. And there are various types of yoga, like Ashtanga yoga, Karma yoga, Jnana yoga. There are different types of yoga. But when this yoga is devoid of any other intention other than serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is called pure devotional service or Bhakti yoga. Bhakti. Yoga is Bhakti. Without Bhakti there cannot be. Without love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead there cannot be yoga. There cannot be any yoga. But when this is Jnana Karmad Anavritam, when this yoga, the intention and objective of the yoga is nothing but serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is called Bhakti. And we'll see that time and time again, Krishna is establishing that point. And for us, it's very reassuring. For us, it's very reassuring that we have found the ultimate path. So what Srila Prabhupada gave is pure devotional service, which is the highest spiritual activity. Other yogas are different rungs of the ladder. Prabhupada defined it in this way. Yoga is the ladder. And different processes are different rungs, different steps of that ladder. And climbing the ladder, when we come, where do we come? Climbing the ladder, where we come is the platform of pure devotional service. Yes, they are helpful. Ashtanga Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, they all are helpful to climb on top of the building. And that top part, the roof, is the platform of pure devotional service. So, here Uddhava is saying that you actually are the knower of the yoga. You alone aware the results of yoga practice. And it is by your mercy one achieves the perfection of yoga, which is pure devotional service. That is prema bhakti. Bhakti also has two different stages. Sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice, and prema bhakti, loving devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uddhava is making another very, very important point. He's saying that those whose minds are attached to sense gratification, who are attached to sense gratification and bereft of devotion unto you, they can never achieve the perfection of yoga. So the qualification to achieve this perfection of yoga is attachment to Krishna, love for Krishna, and as a result of that, becoming free from all desire for sense gratification. Those who are attached to sense gratification, they cannot make progress in spiritual life. And at the same time, to give up material attachments, give up the tendency to enjoy the material nature is very difficult. But by the mercy of the Lord, it is possible. This point also has been very nicely clarified. What do we actually want with all our activities and endeavors? We want joy, anandam. Anything that we do, whatever we do, is simply to enjoy or experience joy. People are working so hard to earn money. Why? Because they think that by doing that, they will enjoy. People are trying so hard to acquire all kinds of possessions. People struggle so much to win the favor of a beautiful woman. Why? All these endeavors are simply for the sake of enjoyment. They simply want to enjoy. But the point is, in the material nature, there is no enjoyment. Just as running after a mirage, one can never quench his thirst, running after these materialistic endeavors, one can never feel the total satisfaction. Because the real sting is not there. the substance that is the source of joy is not there. Just like the substance to quench our thirst, water, is not there in the mirage. So no matter how much we run after the mirage, we'll never be able to quench our thirst. But then it is by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead we get proper information. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One gets the Guru by the mercy of Krishna, and by the mercy of the Guru one gets the seed of devotional service. Bhakti Lata Bij. And when one gets that, like when somebody comes and gives him a glass of water, then his thirst is immediately quenched. And that person reminds him that running after the mirage, you'll never get any enjoyment. You'll never be able to quench your thirst. Water is not there in the mirage. The water is there in the oasis. So come with me, I will show you the way. And that is what the spiritual master shows. And Uddhava is pointing out that it's by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that one comes across such a personality who has the information where real joy is. The real joy is in developing a loving relationship with Krishna. Okay, this point also has been very wonderfully explained. Like, why through loving exchange with Krishna that we can enjoy? The answer to that is, the foundation of joy is love. Everybody wants to experience joy through loving exchange. But in this material nature, that loving exchange doesn't take place. And even if it does take place, it doesn't last forever. All the great love stories ended in a tragedy. They may have been enjoying for the time being, but then when they lose each other, or one person loses the other, then what happens? He's plunged into misery. There may be a loving relationship, but when the other person dies, then what happens? Not only the enjoyment comes to an end, but one is plunged into an eternal suffering. Whereas the loving relationship, loving exchange with Krishna will never go in vain. To begin with, it's a loving exchange. And Krishna already loves us. It is not that Krishna will love us if we love him. Krishna already loves us. We have to simply reciprocate that love, recognize that love. In this respect, we can consider a very simple analogy. For example, a young boy is deeply in love with a beautiful young girl. It's a common story. And although he loves her, but she doesn't respond. He loves her, but she doesn't respond, and as a result of that, that love is unfulfilled. It's not a loving exchange. There is one party loves, the other party does not. So our situation is something like that. Krishna loves us, but we don't love him. We are totally unconcerned about him. Is it difficult to figure out how much Krishna loves us? Look, all the food that you have eaten, who supplied it? Krishna. All the water that you drank, who supplied it? Krishna. Why? Why Krishna is going out of his way to make all these arrangements for us when we are totally unconcerned about him? What will be the answer? Because he loves us. Who supplies all the oxygen that we are breathing? Why? Because he loves us. So can we have any doubt that Krishna doesn't love us? Krishna already loves us. But we are like that unconcerned, beautiful young girl who does not respond to his love. But then one day, that young boy receives a note from that young girl saying, "I love you so much." Then how does he feel? He'll be in his seventh heaven. Now our situation is like that. Krishna loves us, but we don't love him. But one day when we say, "Krishna, I also love you. Now I realized how much you love me, and I love you, Krishna." Then what will happen? Krishna will start dancing in ecstasy. So that's what happens. There is a saying that Krishna doesn't lack anything. The only thing that Krishna lacks is love. And that's why he is so eager to develop this loving relationship with us. So now when Krishna loves us, then we begin to see how Krishna is actually reciprocating. Then we begin to see Krishna is supplying all the food. Oh, this food is so delicious. Krishna baro dayamay koribare jiv bhajay shab prasad anna dilo bhai. It is our appreciation of Krishna's love for us. And we begin to see that. How Krishna is providing us with everything, and how Krishna is taking care of us in all respects. So that is the reason when one develops devotion to Krishna or develops his loving relationship with Krishna, then he naturally begins to experience that joy. Because this joy is not a product of our senses. This joy is actually a state of our consciousness. And that springs forth from the depth of our hearts. I mentioned earlier that Krishna is giving this opportunity to us through Uddhava. Just as Krishna made Arjuna a medium through which he gave us Bhagavad Gita, the way of distributing this Uddhava Gita is Uddhava. Just as Arjuna apparently appeared to be bewildered, here Uddhava seems to be bewildered. Look at this most exalted personality, who was Krishna's most intimate associate in Dwarka. He was most intimate associate of Krishna in Dwarka. Uddhava was an extremely unique personality. He was a disciple of Brihaspati, the guru of the demigods. He was a cousin of Krishna. He was Krishna's friend and secretary. So much so that before Krishna woke up in the morning, Uddhava was there at Krishna's palace, next to Krishna's bed. And after Krishna went to sleep, at night, Uddhava went home. And Krishna considered Uddhava to be his most intimate confidant, most intimate associate. Now this Uddhava is saying, "Oh my Lord, I am most foolish because my consciousness is merged in the material body and bodily relations." Prabhupada pointed out, when an exalted personality speaks like that, we have to understand that he is actually speaking about us. Like Bhakti Vinod Thakur is saying that my life is full of sinful activities. My life is full of sinful activities. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. But his life is not full of sinful activities. Our lives are full of sinful activities. He is simply reminding us. So Uddhava is assuming or standing on our shoes. Uddhava is speaking like that. I am so foolish and I am so much in body consciousness. I am so attached to sense gratification. I am so attached to my family relationship. What hope do I have? And thus I am thinking, I am this body and all these relatives are mine. Therefore, my Lord, please instruct your poor servant. Please tell me, how can I very easily carry out your instructions? My dear Lord, you are the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, and you reveal yourself to your devotees. Besides your Lordship, I do not see anyone who can actually explain perfect knowledge to me. Such a perfect teacher, is not to be found even among the demigods in heaven. Indeed, all of the demigods headed by Brahma are bewildered by your illusory energy. So everyone in this material nature is affected by the illusory energy or maya of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, Uddhava is saying that in this material nature, no one is qualified to impart perfect knowledge. However, the human form of life comes with a very, very special opportunity. This has been described in this way, that there are different types of living entities. One stand on 1 foot, some others stand on 2 feet, some stand on 3 feet, some on 4 feet, and some on many feet. But they do not have the opportunity to question about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and understand the science of the spiritual reality. Only the human beings have the ability. Bhakti Vinod Thakur stated that there are 5 types of consciousness. Trees and plants fall on the covered consciousness. From insects to animals fall on shrunken consciousness. In tree and plant, you hardly can detect their consciousness. But the insects and animal, they visibly display their consciousness. But that consciousness is in a shrunken state. But then comes the human beings. Their consciousness is in a bud state. A bud. Apparently the bud also is in a shrunken state. The petals are in a shrunken state. But the bud has the ability to bloom. Although apparently human beings are in a shrunken state of consciousness, apparently, initially, but the human beings have the ability to expand their consciousness. But for a lotus bud to bloom, it needs two criteria. One is water, and the other is the light rays of the sun. When the sun comes up, the lotus bud begins to bloom, provided it is in the water. If the lotus bud doesn't have the shelter of the water, then the same sun that would have enabled it to bloom into a flower would wither the flower, wither that bud. That rays of the sun will dry out the bud. It won't bloom, it will become dry, it will become withered. So just as the bud needs two factors to bloom, the human consciousness, which is in a budding state, needs two factors. One is exposure to the sun, who is Krishna, and the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, which is the water. When a human being under the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master becomes exposed to the sun, his consciousness begins to bloom. Is it blooming in your case? How many of you think that it's blooming? Don't be humble. Huh? No one. How many of you think that your consciousness is blooming, expanding? How many of you think that nothing is happening? Just wasting your time chanting Hare Krishna. How many of you think that you're wasting your time? And how many of you don't want to raise your hands? Anyway, this is the process. Under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, when one becomes exposed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, his consciousness begins to bloom. His consciousness begins to expand. And then when he understands Krishna completely, when he is transported to the spiritual sky, or when he is transported to spiritual consciousness, then it is called fully bloomed state of consciousness. So these are the 5 different types of consciousness. Now consider who has the ability to expand his consciousness. Only the human beings. Therefore, towards the end of Uddhava Gita, Krishna makes that point. Labdha sudurlabhamidam bahu sambhavante. After many, many possibilities, when one gets the human form of life, which is full of meaning and full of opportunities, yet uncertain. No one can say when one may leave his body. So, therefore it is said that Turnam, Jateta, very carefully, immediately. Turnam means immediately. When the opportunity comes, immediately take this opportunity. Immediately take advantage of this opportunity. Because this eating, sleeping, mating, defending, these materialistic activities are available even to the animals. In many cases, the animals can do that even better than human beings. I remember in America there was a show, I just happened to see the thing in the TV, a competition of eating between the most voracious human being and a bear. The man didn't have any chance. When he has finished 1/10, they are actually eating sausages. The bear wiped out the whole thing, a huge amount of sausage. So eating, when it comes to eating, the animals can do that much better than we do. Sleeping, again, bear, famous for sleeping, can sleep for 6 months at a stretch. Snakes also sleep for 6 months at a stretch. So is with mating and defending. We may be defending ourselves with all kinds of modern technology, but the animals can naturally defend themselves. Like human beings, as Krishna mentioned, that when he was going to rescue Sandipani Muni's son, he needed a weapon. But the animals don't need any weapon. Their claws and fangs are good enough. So in all these cases, animals can perform these activities much better than human beings. So when in this way, Krishna actually pointed out that the Sankhya philosophy enables one, when he was answering to Uddhava, that Sankhya philosophy enables one to come to the platform of pure devotional service. How? This also has been very nicely described. Sankhya has many approaches. Sankhya means analytical study. This analytical study can vary. Like in Brahma Samhita, Brahma is analyzing this material nature with 9 considerations. Agnir mahi gaganamambu marupishascha kalas tathatma manositi jagatrayani jasmad bhavanti vibhavanti vishanti jancha govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. 9 factors. Agni, fire; Mahi, earth; Gagan, ether, sky; Ambu, water; Marut, directions; air; Disha, direction; Kala, time; Manas, mind; and soul. So 9. Krishna did that analysis in Bhagavad Gita with 8 points. Bhumi rapo analo bayu khang mano buddhi revacha ahankara ityang me bhinna prakriti rashtadha. But generally Sankhya philosophy that has elaborately described deals with 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether; 5 senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch; 5 objects of the senses: form, touch, smell, taste, sound. So 4 5s are 20. And then they consider that there are 3 subtle elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego. 23. Then they consider the basic ingredients for the entire creation, Mahatattva. 24. So with this 24 consideration, they have analyzed the entire material nature. But then they consider, they all are objective in nature, but the object cannot exist without the subject. So who is the subject? This material nature is manifest to me because I am here. If I am not here, will this 24 consideration of material creation be there? No. If none of us are here, will we ever experience this material nature? No. So who is the subject? I. And this I is, see, the entire material nature has been analyzed with 24 consideration. And then we are coming to this I. So this I obviously is beyond material nature. So this is how they are actually transcending material nature and coming into the spiritual reality. The I is non-material, hence spiritual. Okay, there also they didn't stop. The I's are many and minute. So anything that is many and minute must have a source. So what is the source of all these I's, all the souls? The Supreme Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is how they're transcending the material nature and coming to the spiritual platform. But then the consideration is, how can the spirit soul become connected to the super soul? And as a result of that, yoga, Ashtanga yoga begins. When Sankhya ends, Ashtanga yoga begins. The Sankhya ended with the consideration of spirit soul and super soul. And now, how the relationship can be established. And that is yoga. And at the time of samadhi, the ultimate perfection of yoga, one actually sees the super soul in the core of his heart. So when one minute living entity comes across the absolute personality of Godhead, then what would be his natural reaction? Surrender. So this surrender is the beginning of devotion. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jibe Daya Kori Shaparshad Shiya Dham Shaho Abotori Ottanto Durlabho Prem Koribare Dan Shikhaye Sharanagati Bhakotero Pran. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appearing with his abode and the associate is teaching the living entities the process of surrender. The process of surrender. And this surrender is the foundation of devotion. So this is how Sankhya is leading to Bhakti. As Krishna pointed out here, that through Sankhya, one comes to the platform of devotion. The human form of life, in the human form of life, those who are self-controlled and expert in spiritual science of Sankhya can directly see me along with all of my potencies. So this is how these different processes are actually bringing us to the platform of pure devotional service. So I'll just Krishna now is talking about King Jadu's encounter with the Abadhuta. So he came across this Abadhuta, and once King Jadu observed a certain Brahmana Abadhuta who appeared to be quite young and learned, wandering about fearlessly, being himself most learned in spiritual science. The king took the opportunity and inquired from him as follows. Jadu says, "O Brahmana, I see that you are not engaged in any practical religious activity." As I mentioned, the Abadhutas do not indulge in any practical religious activity. They are just completely lost in Krishna consciousness. So King Jadu is also saying that You are not involved in any practical religious activity. And yet you have acquired a most expert understanding of all things and all people within this world. Kindly tell me, sir, how did you acquire this extraordinary intelligence? How did you get this knowledge? How did you get this understanding? That although you are in the material nature, but you are not at all touched by any material influence. As if you are like a lotus residing above the water. Although in the water, you are not being touched by the water. And then the Abadhuta started to describe, started to tell King Jadu. He said, my dear king, with my intelligence, here again, the human beings are endowed with a special intelligence. With my intelligence, I have taken shelter of many spiritual masters. Having gained transcendental understanding from them, I now wander about the earth in a liberated condition. Now, if you want, I can narrate that to you, I can tell you. And he mentioned that he has taken shelter of 24 gurus, 24 spiritual masters. So, about that, we'll discuss in the next session. Or should I mention who are those 24 gurus? Okay, just these 24 gurus are earth, air, sky, water, fire, moon, sun, pigeon, python, the sea, moth, honeybee, elephant, honey thief, the deer, the fish, the prostitute Pingala, the kurara bird and the child, and a young girl, arrow maker, serpent, spider, and wasp. So what a wonderful vision. He found his spiritual master even in a wasp. He found a spiritual master in a snake, in a python, in a pigeon, a kurara bird, badgered, or eagle. Earth, mountain, trees, air, ocean. So this is the vision. There is always room for learning from everyone. So anyway, we will discuss about that, how they are his spiritual masters, how he treated them as his spiritual master. Thank you very much. We have just a few minutes left for question answer. Yes. Give him the mic.
Thank you very much for such a wonderful and inspiring class knowledge. You were mentioning about Uddhava's representing that conditioned living entities, saying that was sense gratification. was wondering if you give some more light on this aspect that, like in the life of aspiring devotees.
Yeah, it will come as I progress.
Okay. Just
all these points.
Want to mention needs and sense gratification. Basic needs and sense gratification. The roles of this in the life of aspiring.
It will come, as I was saying. Yeah, basic needs are there, and when we take them in relation to Krishna, then they become transformed into devotional service. Shamal. Okay, let Nishingananda is close by, he can have the mic. And then next is Shamal.
You mentioned in the beginning of the talk how when Swami Krishna comes once in the day of Brahma and not in every other yuga. And we know that this Swami Krishna came 5,000 years ago, performed the Vraja Lila. Does that mean that in other, let's say, Dwapara yugas or Treta yugas, Krishna, Vaikuntha Krishna comes and does not perform the specific Vrindavan Lila?
Yeah. Yeah, Vraja Lila is not performed in other ages, in other yugas, other Dwapar yugas.
And then
they have access to Vaikuntha, not Braj.
And then that would imply that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also showing around Krishna.
Yeah, Mahaprabhu comes only after Krishna performs his pastimes. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have two questions. First question is, can you elaborate on the Kshatriya dynasties you have mentioned, the two Chinese brothers? You mentioned that all the Kshatriya dynasties in this world emanated from that family. So this Yayati, Sharmishta and Devayani, were they before Lord Ram was there? Lord Ram was also like...
No, that is another dynasty. That is Surya Vamsa. You know, in general, Prabhupada is saying that from Anu, the Mlechas came. The Prabhupada mentioned the Greeks came from Anu. Then in this way, there are different, even, like we see, like in Japan, the royal family is considered to be coming from sun. So that shows that the root is there. Actually, it's coming all from these two dynasties. But generally, this Chandravamsa and Suryavamsa. And Chandravamsa, like most of the kings actually came from this dynasty. But of course, Suryavamsa is also there. Manurikshakube Ablobit.
My second question is, you mentioned about the state of love in this world. You mentioned that most of the all of the love stories they end in tragedy. I was just thinking, but even in the spiritual realm, apparently it looks like even if we love Krishna, it will sort of end in a tragedy, like the life of Mother Sita or the life of Radharani and other gopis. They loved the Lord, but ultimately it was separation and
Yeah, okay. Very good, very good. We have to understand that these are just pastimes. They're enacting in that way. Lord Ramchandra is never separated from Sita. How can the energetic be separate from the energy? Right? Another consideration is distance makes the heart grow fonder. Okay, there are quite a few. Okay, Prabhanu.
To make the point earlier on the logic Nanda Krishna is the original Swami, doesn't it? Right? Jiva Swami said it in his Session-1. So Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita to
That's Vasudev Krishna. Yeah. That's Vasudev Krishna, that's not Brajendra Nandan Krishna.
Guruji, you perfectly explained that like the lotus needs.
What's that?
Like the lotus
Yeah.
needs sunlight and water to flourish, we as human beings need the love of Krishna and the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. My question is, who establishes who is a spiritual master? And above that, the bona fide
That you have to find out. That you have to find out. All right?
Oh,
Shop around.
Charu. If I ask my daughter Bhkti, I know definitely what you
Very, very good. She can give you a very good advice. Like while shopping around, if you get somebody who can give you the information about the best product in the cheapest price, won't you go there? Okay, at the back there are some questions. Vinod Bihari.
Hare Krishna. In one of your classes, I heard about you saying that Krishna appears in the Dwapara Yuga, and that's really you told us. But the Dwapara Yuga, the order of the yugas is like Satya Yuga,
Yeah.
Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and then
Right.
Kali Yuga.
When Krishna comes, this 28th Chaturjuga of Vaivashvata Manvantar, it switches. The Juga was cursed that Dwapar Juga, you come after Treta. The reason is, in Dwapar Juga, Krishna will perform his pastimes, and then in Kali Yuga, Krishna will come as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To make that arrangement, there is this switching. Otherwise, Satya, Dwapar, Treta, Kali. But in this one, overlaps.
So we can understand that in other yugas, when the Dwapara comes before Treta, then Krishna comes before Ramachandra?
Yeah. That Krishna is Jugavatar. That Krishna is Jugavatar.
Yeah, but he's like before Ramachandra.
Before Ramchandra. Because Ramchandra comes in Treta.
Please forgive me, it is a silly question. Because in Bhagavad Gita, we know that Bhagavad Gita means the instruction given by the Lord. Is Bhagavan ne jo bola, that is Bhagavad Gita. And here it is, we are telling Uddhava Gita. But here, instruction is also given by the Lord only. So why is Uddhava Gita? Can we say the Bhagavad Gita part 2, like...
Well, if you want, you can call it. Because Bhagavan is speaking, so it is also Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is speaking, so it is Bhagavad Gita. But this is, you see, Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary course. And Uddhava Gita is the advanced course. After Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And after reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you are coming to Uddhava Gita. So you are getting the highest spiritual informations. Krishna Chan?
Like the order of the four yugas is first comes the Satya Yuga, the purest, the best. But then subsequently dharma diminishes. So isn't it rather depressing that in this world that when Krishna actually comes to establish dharma, but over a period of time the dharma loses and adharma, until of course at the end of Kali Yuga when Lord comes as self-made. Why is it that this particular order has been given? Why not, increasing, dharma, rather decreasing dharma, dividing?
I was about to ask you, why don't you ask Krishna? But I know you'll get upset. That's why I didn't. Okay. The general answer will be, you see, living entities become more and more sinful due to the entanglement in the material nature. Therefore, the progression is like that. People are becoming more sinful, the situation is becoming according to that. Right? 100% pure, 75% pure, 50% pure, 25% pure, and then the dwindling. All right? So Krishna made it's a natural consequence. Like, don't we see that? That's the natural tendency of this world. Does the condition improve in this world? Like 50 years back, was the condition better or not? As the time progresses, the condition deteriorates. Right? And just wait for another 50 years, you will see. You will say, wow, 2013 was a golden age. Because the situation will become so degraded. Okay, so this is a natural tendency of this world. It gets worse. Is democracy improving, getting better, or getting worse? When, say in America, when democracy started, the leaders like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and look at today's leaders, do they really come anywhere near them? No. Even in India, the early leaders, Vallabhbhai Patel, right? Lal Bahadur Shastri, and but then came Indira Gandhi, then Rajiv Gandhi, then maybe Rahul Gandhi. Condition is deteriorating. Okay, last question.
Hi, Mr. Guruma. Thank you very much for the session. My question was, as you said that because Krishna loves, He provides us all the things which we need. And although we don't love Him, still He is supplying. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, Ye yatham prapadyante kam tasya bhajamiham. As one sentence to me, I reward Him accordingly. So I was a little confused that if we don't love Him, why does He love us?
Yeah. When we don't love Him, then we don't recognize that He loves us. Che jatha mang prapaddante, as one surrenders unto me, accordingly I reciprocate. Right? If the child says, I don't care about you, I'm going out. Right? The father may give him some good advice, but finally he will say, okay, go and find out how wonderful this world is. How wonderful it is to be independent. So Krishna is giving us an opportunity, saying, okay, go find out for yourself. And when you totally burn yourself, then come back to me. Right? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.